Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. If we could have Pastor Malcolm Light with the Orchard Bible Fellowship Church come forward to give the invocation. That'll be immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you guys could please stand.
Let's pray together. Father, I want to thank you for the day again that you have given to us today. Your word says to us that every day is a day that you have made, and we are to rejoice and to be glad in it. And Father, indeed, I trust that we have done that well today, rejoicing with what you've given. We have much to be thankful for, to thank you for this city. Thank you for where we can live here, the opportunities that we have been granted. And Father, as I think of our city and how great that is and wonderful to be able to be here in Kingsburg, I think also of our state and our country. Thank you, Father, for what you have provided there. I thank you for the leaders that you have given to us, our city council here. Thank you as well for our police officers and police chief and our firemen and all those that serve this community to keep it safe and to keep it moving forward. And so, Father, I ask tonight that as our as our city council is meeting, that you would give them wisdom. And Father, you would give them discernment, that we as citizens would be seeking their welfare as they are seeking our welfare also. We pray this in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Solveig.
Present.
Councilmember Palomar.
Here.
Councilmember North.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Mayor Purcell Jr.
Here. First item is to approve tonight's agenda. Can I get a motion for that?
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Tonight under presentations and informational reports, we have none, so we'll be moving on to public comment. This provides an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on items of interest in the public within the Council's jurisdiction, which are not already on tonight's agenda. It is the policy of the Council not to answer questions impromptu. Speakers should limit their comments to not more than 3 minutes. For items which are on the agenda this evening, members of the public will be provided an opportunity to address the council as each item is brought up for discussion. So with that, we will open it up for public comment. If we have anybody from the public that would like to come up and address the council, now would be the time for that. If you could, as you come up to the podium, up to the microphone, and just state your name if you're a resident of Kingsburg, and then we'll start the clock.
My name is Anna Zenteno. I am a resident of Kingsburg. I am the president of the Kingsburg Youth Soccer League, and I'm here at today's meeting to respectfully ask the city of Kingsburg to reconsider moving forward with the sports complex project. Our league is open to surrounding cities, and we're proud to welcome players from Reedley, Dinuba, Selma, and Fowler, who choose to register with Kingsburg due to our organization and strong reputation. I want to take a moment to commend our board for their hard work in attracting players from outside cities to be part of our league. For our 2024 fall season, running from August to December, we registered a total of 734 players, 100 more than last season. And we only expect this number to keep growing. We also have several travel teams that play year-round, and interest in these teams is increasing as more kids are eager to continue after the fall season ends. Additionally, Kingsburg Alliance, another local soccer organization, is also expanding its teams, but faces similar challenges with limited practice space due to other sports activities at the high school. This season brought some tough challenges. With 66 teams in our regular league, practice space was extremely limited. While we had access to school grounds, it was only available after 6 p.m. due to the after-school program. And although we also had city parks, it was challenging, especially for our youngest players, as young as 4, to practice in open spaces without fencing, where balls could easily roll into the street. Many teams struggled with limited space at the parks due to how crowded they were. Having grown up in Kingsburg, I've always known this community to be one that strongly supports youth sports. As our community grows, our kids deserve a dedicated space to practice and play the sports they love. With each registration season bringing more participants, where our players, our kids, have the chance to practice. Are we really going to have to tell them, sorry, we don't have enough practice locations for you to join a sport you love? Our league has a community eager to support this project moving forward. We're ready to discuss how we can contribute financially and explore ways to make a beautiful sports complex affordable for our city. So my question for the city of Kingsburg is, when can we begin making the sports complex a reality? Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up and state your name, please.
My name is Elizabeth Salazar. I am the president for the Kingsburg Girls Softball League. I'm not as prepared as she was as far as typing something out and having it ready, so I'm just going to speak from my heart. But this sports complex has been a dream of the softball community for a long time. They're really same type of frustrations, same type of limitations when it comes to practice locations. We can't just have flat land. We need a field. We need a dirt field for some of our older ages. Our young ones do practice in public areas like parks, grass fields, but as you get into that older age range, it really is important to have a true softball field for them to be able to play on and even practice on. I know that the schools have regulations that are being passed down to them. I think our after-school program is amazing, and I am so grateful to be part of a community that has such a program. Unfortunately, then those things do get passed on to our community organizations that have relied on school grounds to be able to practice and to be able to continue to serve the youth of our community. And so same question is posed of, how can we make this happen? We already do have funds set aside from the original, I don't know the right terminology, but the original plan that was proposed, and we were a part of those planning meetings as to what we'd like to see. And I just think that it's a great asset to our community, especially a community that is very sports driven and youth driven. It's kind of sad that we don't already have one. And so we're a little bit behind the times. And same challenging question of what can we do? How can we work together along with the city to make this dream a reality for us?
Okay, thank you. Just real quick point of clarification, when you're talking about the original plan, you're talking about for the sports complex that was going to be off of Stroud and Madison area?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have anybody else specifically with the sports complex that would like to speak? If not, maybe if you guys could send me an email, we can set up a time when we can sit down and meet. We can show you kind of the stuff that we had talked about during some of our financial planning meetings, just to go through some of the logistics of that, so you guys kind of know how we got to where we are right now. So just send me an email and we'll be able to sit down and talk about it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Do we have any other members of the public that would like to speak during public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment and move on to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and include a recommendation action from staff that should be acted on in one motion by the council. If a council member requests additional information or would like to pull an item for discussion, that item shall be pulled from the consent calendar and acted upon separately. A motion to approve the consent calendar is deemed to include a motion to waive a full reading of any ordinance or resolution of the consent calendar. Tonight on the consent calendar, we have items 1 through 12. Do we have any members from council that would like to pull any items?
Item 11, please.
Okay, item 11, pulled by Councilmember North. Do we have any other items that would like to be pulled by council? Do we have anybody in the public that would like to pull any of our items that are on consent tonight? Any members from staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to accept consent items 1 through 12 with the exception of 11.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. With the exception of 11, 1 through 12 are accepted. And we will pull item 11, and that is to accept the TOD Phase 1 project and authorizing the city engineer to file a notice of completion. Staff report by City Engineer Dave Peters, pulled by Councilmember North.
I do have concerns about closing this item and calling it complete. I do know that it says there's I think a 1-year warranty period that will be in place. Some of the comments I'm getting from the public is how bad it looks down Draper. Many of the public members that have talked to me about it are trying to use the bike lanes, and the gravel is so bad, they feel that it is not safe. Some of the comments are Draper is our crown jewel, and it's not about the striping or the bike lanes. It just looks terrible. When I first brought this up to staff, I was told that like after a couple weeks or whatever, it would wear down and it would look better. Some of the members of our community who are currently using the bike lane say it's actually getting worse. I have seen a few holes out in front of like Fugazi's area. I did notify staff about that. I have not gone back to check like actual holes in the asphalt. I didn't go back to check to see if it got fixed. My concern is I also live near some streets that were fixed at the same time. I don't recall if it's the same company. And our streets are beautiful in our neighborhood. They do not look like Draper. And so I would just be concerned of us closing this and saying it's complete when you can just walk out front and it looks really bad. So that was why I asked to have it pulled. I don't know if you've had public talk to you about it. I would say I've probably had about 5 people from the public comment recently, and maybe 2 or 3 right after it was completed.
Any other council discussion?
Yeah, I noticed, right after they striped it, the bike lane, that I noticed some, rocks, because I'm a cyclist, and I noticed right away that, I don't know, that's too slow for me to cycle on Draper, I go many miles, but anyways, I noticed, but I thought maybe they would, a street sweeper, we get our local street sweeper to come and sweep it up or something, because I have noticed a lot of rocks, and lately, I haven't looked lately, but I did notice, right away there was some gravel on there, so.
I looked tonight. It's still bad. The
So,
whole
yeah,
road.
I think
It's
what
not
happens is
just
the
the
cars
bike
just,
lanes.
they throw them on the bike lane, and then the street sweeper sweeps the gutter, and everything just stays right there on the bike lane. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, so just a little background. So, that's pretty normal for this treatment to have some of the aggregate, become loose. I think it has gotten significantly better, over the last couple of months. I did walk it too. I didn't see a lot of gravel, but we can certainly go and take a look at that together. That course treatment was needed because of the condition of the pavement. So doing anything less than that would not have lasted or been any sort of a long-term solution to the street. We did this exact same treatment in 2009, exact same type of surfacing, and it takes 6-7 months of vehicular traffic, and then I've been working with the public works director. They were, the typical thing that they do is they sweep the gutters with the brooms, and so they were doing that at the beginning, which was very helpful because it was picking the stuff up. And now what we're doing is we're shifting over and having them actually move over with the street sweeper, just using the vac, not the brushes, just to use the vac to take up some of the aggregate. So I think that's helping too. I think it's something we're going to have to deal with for the next couple of months. But I think when we get into the springtime, you're going to see a surfacing that's similar to how the street was before we did the treatment. Because, like I said, back in 2009, we did the same treatment, and it was rough for a few months and then smoothed out. But I'm happy to go over it with you and take a look.
Okay, so it's normal.
That is pretty normal. Like I said, our first preference would have been to grind the street and repave it, but there wasn't funds to do that.
Okay.
And so if we had tried to do something like a typical driveway sealer, it would have just it would have been like painting the street. It would not have filled up any of the cracks or any of the depressions. It wouldn't have provided any sort of a wear course. So this will actually, I mean, the last time we did it, it lasted, what, 15 years? So this should last us a while. And it's just something we're going to have to deal with, you know, until it kind of softens up and smooths out, which I think it will, based on our experience doing it last time. If you look at the vehicular travel lanes, those are a lot smoother. They're getting more vehicular travel.
Okay.
So-
And if it isn't within the 6 months, does the 1-year warranty?
Yeah, the 1-year
Will
warranty
that-
would be from the date that you accept the project, so you have a full year after that. Obviously, if we're still dealing with stuff in February and it's not getting any better, then yeah, we'd have to.
It will cover it?
Oh, yeah, they'd have to
Okay.
come back. I mean, up to and including redoing the street if that was an issue, but I don't feel like we're gonna need to have to do that.
Okay, I feel comfortable with those answers. You do.
Do we have any other council discussion on that?
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment on that matter? Okay, seeing none, we'll come back to council for any further discussion or motions on that.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that accepted, and we will move on to our regular calendar tonight. The first item is item 13. That is the Kingsburg District Chamber of Commerce update, presentation by President Reggie Gerke. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, thank you for having us here. I have Tammy Dooley, our vice president, with us too. I'm trying to think where to begin. We recently found out, it's been just over a month now, that we're missing some paperwork that should have been done about 120 years ago. So I don't know if you guys remember 120 years ago, but we don't. So we've been working on trying to get that straightened out. It's with Secretary of State, or Attorney General's office, not the Secretary of State, Attorney General's office. They want us to register as a charity with them. And we unfortunately don't have our original formation documents to accomplish that, even though the Attorney General's office has told us in the past we're exempt from that registration. They're now telling us we're not. So we have brought in legal counsel that's been advising us on it, and his opinion is based on what government code says, the Chamber of Commerce is not required to register as a charity because we do not hold charitable assets. So he has again written a letter back to Attorney General Bonta's office asking him to either acknowledge our exemption or prove to us what charitable assets we actually do hold, which to the best of our knowledge, there isn't any. So, and our CPA and the attorney are in agreement on that. Unfortunately, the process has definitely complicated operations for us, and we haven't been able to work through it the way that would have probably been the most efficient way to do it because of various different reasons. But we're doing the best we can with making sure that we're compliant with what the Attorney General's office is telling us. They did notify us that we're not allowed to perform any operations until the matter is resolved. In the process of doing this, we've done a little bit of research ourselves to learn a few things, and anybody else that in the community that has a tax-exempt organization, I strongly suggest you go to this website because most of the organizations in Kingsburg are in the same boat we are. They just haven't received the letter yet. And you can find that on the Attorney General's website. It's actually a lot. When you look at it, the information I was receiving is it's more than like 70% of the tax-exempt organizations in the state of California are not in compliance on this. So it's not we're not the only ones in this boat. It just is a little bit more complicated for us at this point because we have been around so long and we don't have that original paperwork. that would have solved the problem rather quickly. So our goal right now is to wait to hear back from the Attorney General's office on whether or not they will grant us the exemption as per what the law says, or if they have some other proof that we need to register. And that's when we would go forward with creating a new entity from the government standpoint. Chamber of Commerce would stay the same. We just have to close the old one, open the new one, and go through that process to now have all that paperwork that's in place. Some restrictions that you've probably noticed is we do have the office closed. We have most of our operations have ceased. The only thing that our attorney suggests we do is have board members involved in the process of correcting this. And that's about the extent of what we're allowed legally to accomplish as the Chamber of Commerce. As you know, we've got a couple of events coming up, and it's kind of putting us in between a rock and a hard place. Yulgren's Fest, the tree lighting ceremony, we do have another group that is going to make sure that still happens. As of right now, for Santa Lucia, we also have another group that normally runs the parade portion of it anyways. They will still be running that parade, as last conversation we had. So the parade will still happen. Exactly how people are going to sign up for that, we're working out the details. As soon as we have that, we'll get it out so you guys can let everybody know how to do that too. But when it comes to having the vendors, that adds a new level of challenge because we don't have a way to accept payment. We don't have a way to process things through the health department right now when it comes to food vendors. We don't have a way to process insurance and all those kind of things. So as of right now, it would probably not have vendors, at least if the chamber's running that event, because we can't really run the event. But the plan is the parade would still happen. So that's about where we're at. Unfortunately, I don't have a better timeline because we're now waiting for the letter process back and forth. And you know how well that goes sometimes with government offices. So we were hoping we could have handled it a little differently and had a little bit more leeway on some things, but unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. Got too many lawyers are involved at this point. Sorry, Mike. No offense, but they're keeping us honest on it, which I guess is probably the better way to do it anyways. So, yeah. But I'd be happy to answer questions that you guys have. So
There will be lots.
I'm
so
sure.
I appreciate your patience. We'll start with council, and then we'll bring it to public comment, and then come back to council. Let's start up here.
I've had, the questions I think that I've had, you just answered, the public questions. So parade registration, tell them, hold off.
We'll make sure they get registered. We'll
that-
get the information out, yep.
Okay, and then vendors, at this point, it looks like it's probably not going to happen for vendors.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless we can get some other clarification. I'm waiting to hear back from the attorney on if there's a way we can do that in a creative way. And it kind of comes down to, it's a street closure, so it'd be up to city staff to honor a street closure for that event from a different organization potentially. But
I'm sure that'll be fine.
I'm sure, I'm not too worried about it, but that would be kind of what it would look like. We just have to have another organization that meets the requirements, run it that way.
And Veterans Breakfast is handled with Lions and Casaros stepping up for that at the Senior
Correct.
Center
Yep.
on the
Yep,
11th?
that'll still happen Monday.
Okay. I just had events questions
I
at this
have-
point.
I have a few events questions. The music downtown. Who are you guys going to continue taking care of that? It needs to be changed to Christmas music at some point in time. When is it normally changed, and will that be handled?
It would be changed the morning, or the, what is it? Yeah, the morning of the tree lighting is normally when we change that, and I don't see why we couldn't change that. That doesn't seem like anything significant, so.
Okay. So your website is non-functioning, but you're not pulling it down, even though you're closed?
The website is still there, but you can't do anything on it.
Right. Okay. I have received a commitment from another organization that will be willing to handle the Santa Lucia. So I believe the vendors and that. So I'll take care of working through that aspect and see if we can pull that one off. But so that Santa Lucia can look like it always has. That's the goal. The speakers for the parade, are we going to be able to use the speakers downtown, or will that be?
There won't be anybody to help you with it.
Okay, so that will need to get other speakers, correct? Okay. For Yule Grounds Fest, is the speakers downtown used at all for that?
No.
Okay, so
No, it's a
that
portable
won't be an
system
issue.
that's
Portable
used.
in the back of a golf cart.
Okay, and is that the chambers? Do we need to find that?
No, it's not the chambers.
Okay. But you said you had another organization that's going to take care of Yule Grounds Fest? Okay. Okay. Okay, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess it's my turn. So, Reggie, I guess I have a couple questions. But one question would be, when you talk about creative solutions, I mean, could one of those solutions be like forwarding the phones to a volunteer and they could take information and run certain applications and do things that the chamber did in the chamber's absence until they get their valid paperwork? Is that an option or is that not an option?
The phone number belongs to the chamber,
Okay.
and I think that's the sticking point, because
Okay.
it's a chamber thing. And I think that's a lot of what we're running into is a lot of this stuff, especially when it comes to like contracts. Like we have the contract with the city for these events. So yes, we can't technically operate, but, yeah, it's very, it's very complicated, and unfortunately, we didn't get good help with it in the first place. It kind of went straight to zero as fast as possible, so we didn't have a lot of chances to do some damage control and fix some things.
Yeah, so, I mean, in your guys' defense, this is something that was, happened many, many years ago, and so I appreciate and applaud you guys trying to fix it, because there's been many, many boards that, didn't even know that it was an issue, and so I appreciate all the chamber and their efforts in trying to right a wrong that was not even yours. And so I know you guys are working hard on it. I've been to some of the meetings, and I've heard, several different people speaking out. And I just want to say that I think that it is an opportunity to come back bigger and better than ever. And so I think that, yeah, you're in the heart of it right now, and it's difficult, but at some point I think you're going to fix it and move forward and be stronger than you were prior. That's my own opinion. I just hope that, the community, and it sounds like the community is coming together and pulling for you guys. And, if there's anything that I can help with, I'd be willing to help as well. So,
Appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. That's all I have.
You have a couple questions, Reggie. My question is, the Attorney General requires all chambers in California to register as a charity?
No, technically, chambers are not required to register as charities.
But that's what they're asking you to do.
Correct.
For what reason? Do you know
That's a
why?
very good question. That's what we're trying to get them to tell us.
Okay, but then you said that you're trying to get exempt from that, right? Exempt
We
from
should be,
registering it?
yeah, by government code, I don't have all of it with me and probably don't care what all the numbers are and everything. But the government code says chambers of commerce are a mutual benefit organization, which means the money that they bring in is for the benefit of their membership. It's not anybody can come to us like, it's not like, I'll use Hillbloom Foundation as an example. Hillbloom Foundation is a actual charity that you can apply for grants for, and the money they have come in can be distributed to all kinds of different people, groups, and organizations. Chamber of Commerce is different because they are what's, like I said, a mutual benefit organization. They are there for the benefit of their members. Kind of like how a church is there for the benefit of their members. They're obviously exempted for religious purposes, but there's a lot of organizations, a lot of tax-exempt organizations that are mutual benefit organizations. VFWs are a good example, American Legions, all those kind of things. But this is where we're looking for the clarification. Somewhere along the way, the Attorney General's office became under the impression that we were operating as a charity and accepting donations, when we have never provided anybody a donation letter or a giving statement from that standpoint, as far as I am aware of. That would tell somebody that when they filed their taxes at the end of the year, that they were writing off any money they gave to the chamber as a donation. So if they have been, that's their CPA needing to do a little bit more research maybe as to what status the Chamber of Commerce is. Chamber of Commerces are not charities. They're not a 501c3. They're a 501c6.
Six, yeah. Yeah, that was I was kind of bewildered, but that was why the Attorney General was requiring you to register as a charity. It didn't make sense, yeah.
It doesn't.
Okay.
When Kamala Harris was the Attorney General in 2013, she actually wrote us a letter that states we're exempt.
Right.
We have a signed letter from her from her office that was the case.
So you probably have filed
And
that
then,
with-
right, and then I know there was some law change around 2019 that I think may have muddied the waters a little bit, and that's when a lot of those offices started looking into tax-exempt organizations, and I don't know if we just got caught up in a blanket letter to all of them or what took place there, but through many correspondences back and forth between the CPA, our CPA, and the Attorney General's office, that we have not been able to reach an agreement, I guess, with them. So
right now you have no timeline, like you said. Huh?
yeah.
Wow, okay. Well, thank you.
Okay, me again.
Okay.
I have been the council rep for the chamber maybe for 7 years. I was trying to think about how long it's been, on and off for 7 years. Many directors, is it president? Is that your presidents? And this is the first I heard of it. I've been at the meetings and heard of this happening. Shouldn't have happened. I'm glad you're rectifying it now. But one of the things that I want to make sure that the public here and the ones that are watching hear me say this, these people on the chamber board are some of our hardest working citizens in Kingsburg, putting on all of these festivals, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of volunteer hours to make Kingsburg, Kingsburg. Every single one of them. They have asked for help for volunteers. They don't always get it. They're the ones that are there from before the sun is up and well after the sun is down, picking up trash, making sure everything is back the way it is.
Taking barricades down.
We're going to need to talk later about like our contract with you for festivals and if anything needs to be rectified with that, with the city. But in the meantime, anybody that's listening, this is the time when we all need to step up, all of the different organizations. where these people have literally broken their backs to provide what we have here in Kingsburg and make it special. And so anybody that is willing to step in and help at this time, now's the time.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
when you guys come back, maybe people will realize those hours, and you'll have longtime volunteers that are stepping up all of the time.
That'd be nice.
So
That'd be great, yes.
I know right now this is a hot mess. Like, that's not a secret. We've seen it, like, news, everything. It's a hot mess. It's gonna get figured out. It's probably gonna get a little harder before it gets better. But in the meantime, like, we want to help in how we can help, because it's important that we continue on with the things, the traditions that make us Kingsburg.
Yes.
So all of the board members that are here, thank you for everything that you've done, and like, it doesn't go unseen. We appreciate you, and like, we want to help fix this so that we could get back to business. So.
Exactly.
That's what we want to do. We just want to put on festivals and be a chamber of commerce. We don't want to be attorneys and CPAs. That's not what we're here for.
I just want to start by saying thank you to the chamber. And by the chamber, I don't mean the entity. I mean you people that do it. You know, just to echo what Councilmember North said, I don't think a lot of people see people out at 4 o'clock in the morning marking things off. You know, most of us just show up, enjoy the event, and go home without really realizing all the effort that you guys put into that. So I do want to start by saying, more than anything else, thank you to the individuals that have done that. That being said, I do have concerns regarding one of the things that we're up here doing is representing the taxpayers' dollars. And we have a contract with the chamber to accomplish certain things. And we would not be good stewards of those tax dollars if we didn't hold you accountable for those things that the chamber has agreed to do. So that being said, we're supportive of you, and we want to continue to be supportive of you, but we're going to need you to fulfill those things on that contract. So however that's going to work out, you know, just that word of warning ahead of time, we have to have those things done. We just have to, because that contract's in place.
Correct.
And that, you know, that's my biggest point of the night is, you know, how I feel about this personally is a little bit irrelevant, because they put us up here to represent their money. And there is a financial aspect to this. And so that's an important thing to bring up.
I just wanted to note that since the chamber closed, we've stopped payments to them for the time being.
Okay, thank you. So let's just be real cognizant of that. There was a fair amount of city dollars put into those contracts, and we need to get back up and running. And if you need us to maybe make phone calls to Sacramento for you, those are things that we're more than willing to do to hopefully speed this process up. Because we are very supportive. Without these festivals, Kingsburg is just not the same as it always has been. And we recognize that, and we recognize if you guys all went away, those are going to go away. The city just can't do it without you, and so we're thankful for that. Do we have any other council members? If not, I'm going to open it up to the public. Okay, we're going to open it up for public comment. If we have any members from the public that would like to come up and address the council, now is your opportunity. Do you have any members from the public at all that want to come up? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back for council discussion. Any other final words? Okay, I believe this was an informational only item. So again, thank you guys for coming. We do appreciate the transparency. I know a lot of times it's hard to be completely transparent about what's going on when things aren't great. So thank you for at least coming up and giving us an update. Okay, we will now move on to item 14. Item 14 is the Government Finance Officers Association Award Announcement, the presentation by Assistant City Manager Christina Windover.
Good evening, Mayor Purcell and council members. Thank you for having me here tonight. My first item is on the 2 awards that the city has received from the Government Finance Officers Association. The awards include the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, program, and then the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting program. The GFOA was established in 1984 to encourage and assist state and local governments to prepare budget documents of the highest quality that reflect both the guidelines established by the National Advisory Council on state and local budgeting and the GFOA's best practices on budgeting, and then to recognize individual governments that succeed in achieving that goal. Approximately 1,800 governments, including states, cities, special districts, school districts, and others have been recognized for transparency in budgeting. To earn this recognition, the budget documents have to meet certain program criteria, and they have to excel as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communications tool. The City of Kingsburg has received this award 19 times historically, including for the last 9 consecutive years. The second certificate of achievement is for excellence in financial reporting. The GFOA established this program in 1945 to encourage and assist state and local governments to go beyond the generally accepted minimum requirements for accounting principles and to prepare annual comprehensive financial reports that evidence the spirit of transparency and full disclosure, and then to recognize those governments that succeed in achieving that goal. The goal of the program is not to assess the health of the participating governments, but rather to ensure the users of their financial statements have the information to do so themselves. Kingsburg has been honored to receive this award 7 times, all in the past 7 years. Each of these awards is a reflection of the direction and guidance by City Council and the countless efforts of staff who help create these documents for the purpose of promoting transparency and governance. A special thank you to Oma Collado and her staff, City Manager Alexander Henderson. We've had help from our account clerk, Stephanie Bennett, in applying for the awards, and many others, department heads and management staff who put hours into the budget. So thank you to everyone involved in that process. Attached in your packet is the news release for both the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award Program and also the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Again, this is informational only, and again, thank you to everybody who helped put these documents together. And congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Do we have any council discussion on this?
Congratulations.
I just want to thank Alma and all our city staff that helps hard work every day to, for us to get this award. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes to the quality of staff that we have here, and transparency is a big thing for myself and for the rest of the council members here. And so it's very, very humbling to know that you guys are doing such a great job to get an award like that, and it should be, it should be commended by all the citizens, and they should feel good about, that what you guys are doing is transparent. And so we appreciate you and all your efforts. Thank you.
Yeah, just thank you. I mean, 7 years in a row, that's amazing. So we're very thankful for Alma, you, and all of your staff. And keep it up.
We're working on the 8th one. Right?
Working on number 8. See, now it's the expectation, isn't it? That's the problem with entitled councils. We'll open up to public comment. Do we have any members of the public that would like to come up and speak to this? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And is there any more council discussion? If not, we'll close this. It's informational only. We will move to item 15, space needs assessment proposals. Presentation again by Assistant City Manager Christina Wendover.
Okay, so the space needs assessment is an RFP we released for the City Hall. We received 5 proposals originally. We took those proposals to the Finance Committee. We did approve, or we did like Griffin Structures and KPA the most. So Public Works Director Daniel Galvez contacted each firm For references, Visalia for Griffin Structures and the town of Ross for KPA. Both of those references were positive. That said, the cost proposed were significantly greater than we had originally planned and budgeted for. Therefore, the Finance Committee directed staff to go back to Griffin Structures to ensure that the scope and costs proposed effectively met our needs. Their revised proposal includes a reduced scope of upfront services, particularly considering the desire to focus on a new City Hall location rather than an extensive review of the existing location. This resulted in a 12% reduction from their original fee, bringing it down to $109,500, or down to that from $125,000. So at the last Finance Committee meeting, we reviewed the proposal from Griffin Structures, and the Finance Committee recommended staff seek direction from council on whether or not we should move forward with the revised scope for the City Hall space needs assessment. If council desires, staff can finalize the agreement with Griffin Structures for council approval at a future date. So right now we are seeking direction from council on whether or not to conduct the space needs assessment. If so, we'll bring it back to council for approval. We did budget for this item in the current fiscal year. We budgeted about $75,000, and as I noted before, all of the proposals came in significantly higher than that, but Griffin Structures was the most competitive. So I'm happy to answer any questions and or entertain further discussion.
Thank you. Council discussion? Questions? Go ahead. Councilmember North.
When this was first brought to us, I know that I questioned spending that amount of money. And we had talked about like the current, looking at our current space, and now we're talking about like what we need in a different space and changing that scope and focusing on that. I think maybe I might be missing why we need to do this. We already know that we need more space. We can talk to our staff and know what we need. I feel like it is a lot of money that we could use in a smarter way, but maybe because this is in my wheelhouse, I might not be seeing the big picture on, do we need this to like go after grants? Do we need that? Why do we need to spend this much money when we already see how cramped our staff is? And I mean, we can see with our own eyes what their needs might be. And like even parking and things like that, those things to me don't seem like that difficult of a thing for us to look at and maybe spend the money with like an architect or somebody drawing something and working with them where we actually have this completed project for a new space. But maybe I'm missing something on it.
I'll wait till it's my turn.
No, I completely agree, Laura, Councilmember North. I mean, it's a lot of money, and I didn't understand what the purpose was either, because I know that, you know, to have your finance director in a room where the public is with, you know, 5 other, you know, employees is not the best sometimes to focus on the numbers, but obviously almost able to do it since she just got awards back to back to back to back. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But yeah, it's a lot of money. We all know we're outgrowing the space, right? I mean, we have a lot of employees, and they're good employees, and they require space to do their job, like we all do. And so, yeah, it would be interesting to know why we need to spend the money when we already know we need, you know, additional space. So, can you answer that, Christina?
Yes.
I think I can.
Okay.
We'll wait just a second because I think I can touch on that just a little bit.
That's all I have.
Yeah, my feeling's the same way. When I first saw this agenda item, I was like, well, we know what we need here in Kingsburg, you know, for city staff. But then, like Laura said, that was the first thing in my mind also was, but do we need this study and these documents for grants, you know, when we do plan on whatever we're gonna do to remedy this, you know, that we're out of room for our city staff, city hall. So, I guess we're gonna hear the answer from somebody here, hopefully.
No, not necessarily.
No, I'm good.
So when we started going through this process, and Christina, correct me if I'm wrong with this, the big reason for the RFP is because none of us are experts on building new things. And when we're talking about building a new hall, a new city hall potentially, we're talking about millions and millions of dollars. And part of this, if just being completely transparent, is it's going to give us a little bit more of a defensible space when we start to allocate $5, $6, $8 million towards a new building to say it has to be this big, it has to have this much parking, because this third-party entity that does this for a living is saying what it is. It is a little bit more than just somebody coming in and saying, you need a new space. We all know that. We don't need somebody to come in and tell us we need a new space. What they do is they come in and they tell us, based on how many staff we have, what they do, given current climates and stuff, how much space they need, how it's set up, and how that should be designed. So it's not just a, yeah, you guys need a new building kind of thing. I think that, I'll speak out of the other side of my mouth now, that it can go away. We don't have to do it. And that would save us a ton of money, because this is crazy expensive. As long as council understands that we're not going to be in nearly the same defensible space when we have the public coming back and saying, why are you guys spending $6 million? That's too much money. So I just want to be transparent that if that's the direction we go, I'm fine with that. But understand that when they come back and they say, why did you guys need 22,000 square feet? Why did you guys need 17,000 square feet? That's the document that we would reference to say, this is what they said. It's an independent third party. So I'd say that's kind of where it's going to be council's discretion if they want to spend that money potentially in the future on the building, or if they want to spend that to have somebody kind of set it up. They come in and they talk to everybody, see what they do, and figure out how much space we're going to actually need. So I think that was the purpose of it. I hope that answers that question a little bit. And you know what, I could go either way on this. Honestly, I'm open to hear it. I just wanted everybody to kind of understand the real purpose behind the needs assessment. It wasn't just, do we? Because we'd love to get all of our staff out of here tomorrow if we could. We very much see the need for that.
No, and we've been discussing this at the Finance Committee, and I agree. It is a lot of money. But I do think it is the right move for us to give to have an expert come in and help us to understand what we need, exactly like Brandon was saying. So I think it's a good idea to move forward with having the assessment done.
Yeah, that does make sense. And I'm sure they're also going to look to the future for future growth, not just what we need now. So, but let me ask Christina, would this help with grants, this document? Do you know if it would, we submit?
It wouldn't be a necessary requirement, but like Brandon said, it will speak to what our needs are and set the foundation for what we are attempting to build. Part of this RFP also includes getting staff feedback, getting public comment feedback, projecting out 20 years of future needs based on what the staff, space needs are. And so all of those things would help us write better grants, but it wouldn't necessarily be a prerequisite in order to get a grant.
I don't know of many grants that would require this, and to be completely transparent, I don't want you guys to think that we're doing it for grants, because I just don't see any grants that are going to meet this need for a city hall. Those are generally going to be state or federal earmarks on the budget, or whatever we call earmarks now, that would help fund that. And I don't know that an RFP is going to be something that's like that. Grants are generally more, if we attach something else to it, an emergency operations center or some sort of community building, then there's more opportunities for grants. But I don't think this document would help us with grants in any way that I've seen in my experience.
The other options would be financing through some sort of tax, bond, et cetera. So certainly it'll be a good blueprint for future planning.
If we were working with a developer for the property in building to what our needs are, could it be part of the agreement with the architect or the firm that is actually working on a product or blueprints that they get all of the public input? Like, I think public input, staff input is important, but not to tell us like, oh, we need to do this. We already know we need to do this. Let's start working on like actual, the next step. Like, let's get a plan in place and then figure out the money instead of spending all the money on, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, I feel like this report's just gonna be like, here you go, this is what you need. And then the next step's gonna be, okay, now we need to go hire somebody to do the other half of it. Could it be somebody that we hired that did all of it?
I think so. I think that we would control, the next step as far as building design and everything. That's also going to go to RFP, and we can include whatever we want in that RFP. I think the challenge that we may run into, which we may not, but we may run into them saying, "What do you want me to build?" If we're going to RFP, we're going to have to set certain parameters on what they're going to build, what that blueprint's going to look like. It's hard to walk into buy a home and just say, "I want to buy a home." You need to have a general guideline. And if council and staff are okay with us coming up with that and working through it later in the process, we can save that money. But just know that we may run into some hiccups further down the road.
Griffin Structures also does have architects and the ability to go out for an RFP if we do move forward on a project to put together plans in the next phases of building.
In the analogy of the house, like building your own house, like I don't need to go outside for somebody to tell my family like what we need. And I think that's the hard part I'm not reconciling in spending this amount of money. Like, our family knows what they need. We need somebody that maybe it's the same company that is, we're just moving on to, okay, come in, talk to them, and then let's have a product. I don't feel like we need to have them do a report and then we go look for what we need. Part of house shopping or thing, like we know what our family needs. Does that make sense?
It does.
I'm having a hard time saying yes to this amount of money without then having a product or a blueprint. We already know the property. Like, we know where we want to build a city hall. We have that. We know the amount of land that we have. We know the amount of staff we have. We have smart people that could do projections. Our city, our city didn't even grow that much in the last 10 years as far as our numbers. We were kind of shocked when we had the numbers come back and we were just at 12,000, right? I don't know. I'm having a hard time with it.
Okay.
It makes me feel better that the document's, not like a year and then it's out of date, right? It's good for up to 20 years, depending on how fast the city grows. So that makes me feel a little bit better, but it is a ton of money, and I guess my question would be, is now the right time? Is now, everything only goes up, it seems like, but do we need it now? I don't know when, a new city hall would get built, right? So, this is the first step to justify, hey, look here it is, we need more space, but we know we need space, and so I'm having a hard time with spending the money now, and even though the document is good for longevity. So that's kind of where I'm at.
You guys want to open up to public, or have anything else before we move to public? Okay, we'll open it up to public comment. If anybody from the public would like to come up and speak specifically to this matter, come on up. Nope.
I just got one question.
Come on up, Lance.
I mean, just maybe an option is, oh, I'm sorry, Lance Jackson, Kingsburg, is maybe take the, I mean, kind of like what Laura was saying, right? Folding the architecture in with this longevity, with this needs assessment, because then maybe you have a needs assessment. You basically now have a roadmap for the architect, so maybe you could recover some of the costs on the architecture side by doing this. You see what I'm saying? Your architect's going to spend.
I don't. Can you just say that again? Are you saying to?
If you did
say
the
yes
needs
to this,
assessment, you
and
would
then
have a
having
better
them-
roadmap for the architect.
Correct.
Right. So the architect, you would have less cost. You could potentially have less cost on the architecture side. Problem with that is you kind of need to do what Christina said. You're going to be tied to that same company because they do it all, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you might, I mean, the needs assessment might have value if it will bring down the cost of the architectural. Otherwise, I would say, I mean, my opinion would be to put it on the architect, because that's part of their job, is to take your concept, or take a concept and build it into something. Whereas, I mean, this is basically this is going to tell the architect what you need and how you need it. So the architect doesn't have to do that much work, right? So that should bring their cost down. Or, I mean, you might be able to make it all balance and not be but if you couldn't, then I wouldn't be in favor of this. So anyway, that's all.
Yep. I think if we did roll in the architect, we would need to have a separate RFP for the architecture that would have to go out for everybody else. Yeah, come on up.
Daniel Galvez, Public Works Director. I was fortunate to be able to make some calls and check some of the references. So just to kind of talk a little bit about kind of what that space need assessment thing would look like, just to kind of give you guys like an idea of just one aspect of it. So like the front counter where people take payments, we could say, hey, we need, an 8x10 space, but do we really need 8x10 space? Do we need a bigger space? Does it need to be ADA compliant? How much space do we need? What other activities are we going to do there? Abby does, so her notary things. Does she have a space to go and meet them there? Is that space going to be ADA compliant? How much space is that going to take? And so the architect can do those things, but I think with this program, it would help us talk to the account clerks that actually do the work. And I mean, that would be part of their scope, to talk to staff to figure out exactly what activities they do in what space and how we utilize the spaces. So this space that we're in now also serves as a location where we meet every Tuesdays to look at projects. But when the auditors are here, we also have to share the space. If there's another meeting scheduled, then we're having to allocate a different space. So figuring out how big of a meeting space do we need. We don't want to say, hey, we need a meeting space that's this big, and then we never end up utilizing all of the space or utilizing it to its full potential. And so what they look at is, they look at, like you said, the piece of land that we have. They look at a proposed budget that we may be thinking of, hey, this is what we want to spend. Sometimes when you give architects kind of free rein and say, hey, design me a city hall, we're going to come back with one and it's going to be $12 million where, our budget is $3 million. And so they'll kind of work within the constraints of the budget that we kind of give them to say, hey, with $3 million, what kind of space would fit those needs? And so they do have architects, they do have general floor plans that we'll get. And so just kind of wanted to give you guys, some of that feedback in terms of what that process would look like.
So we will get plans.
You might get some floor plans or some rudimentary drawings, nothing really detailed, but at least, hey, this is what a potential site may look like.
Did we attach any of this organization's prior needs assessments to the council agenda tonight? Or did that just come through?
In the packet, there's a couple of different examples of what they've done. And so they do have.
I know we've seen them at finance. I didn't know if we attached them today.
Yeah, so they do have some where you can if you wanted to keep them, they can do something what they call from concept to keys, where they do project management. So even after, whether we choose them as an architect or somebody else, they can make sure that what's being designed is also what's being followed or what was presented in that space need assessments to make sure that that's what we're getting. So.
Do you have any other members from the public that wanted to come up to talk about this? No? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and come back to council.
That was helpful, Daniel, thank you.
Yeah, it was.
You helped give me a clearer picture.
So I've been fortunate to be part of some new builds in my career. And one that stands out personally was, we're going to build a new office. And we go, okay, how many salespeople do we have? How many grower accounting people do we have? Accounts payable, receivable, all that. Similar to what we're doing here. So we'll build a building. This will be the building. We'll never outgrow it. We built a big building. We outgrew it. We just outgrew it. And so, me personally, even on that project, we thought, okay, we know we need space. We probably know how much space we need, what we think, but there might be some value in this company that they've done it in so many other communities and in other cities, and they probably have a good grasp of, hey, you guys are a city of 12,000, you're only going to go to 13 in however many years, however long that takes, and they'll say, don't build a great big giant building because you'll never outgrow it. You just won't. And so if you build a great big building, you'll be sitting with the building. So I think that there may be some value from that standpoint, because that could save us money as well. We might be spending some money here, but if I did it on my own, I'd say, okay, learn from the private sector, and we got to build a great big giant building, but that might be overkill, and we might spend more than $100,000 building a conference room that's too big, right? So there is some value there, I think. And I think that the city hall, I think that could be an amazing place, in addition to maybe they could share what other things that we could do, with, a community center, or even, a bigger senior center or something like that, combined to save money. And so from that, I see value. So I'll just stop there.
No, I'm glad Daniel Kimber spoke, because what he said makes a lot of sense about, speaking, and it was in our agenda, they're going to speak, and Christine said they're going to speak with staff, probably speak with one of us too, some of us, about our council meetings and stuff, so I think it does have, then what Stacy said about, they already talked about it in finance, and they're for it, so I think it's something we do need. Yeah.
I do like the concept to keys idea, and I'm glad that we will get renderings or that out of it, and thank you for giving me the time to discuss it, because I just couldn't fully wrap my head around it.
For me, this is one of those things that I hate spending that money, because I understand how at first blush you look at this and say $125,000 is a waste of money for somebody to come in and design a building. But I think the reality in this is you're talking about, if this is an $8 million building, this is a 1.5% of that. To make sure it's right from the onset, you can't really go back and do that. The numbers are huge, because the numbers for a new city hall are huge. Whether that's 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, 8 million, that's a lot of money. And, again, being good stewards of our tax dollars, I think that we need to be on the right track to start. And unfortunately, that first step in the right track is potentially $125,000. I view this as it's really a commitment from us to moving forward with the new city hall, and the engagement with staff is very important to me. You know, there's nothing more important to us than our staff here. And I think having them be part of this process and having them explain exactly what they need and what their issues are in their current state is very, very important. And this is how that takes place. So for me, it's the engagement with the staff, and although it's expensive, it's kind of like the crude plumbing of a building. It's expensive, but it's absolutely necessary to make sure that it's right from there on out. So that's kind of the last thing I'll say about that. Do we have any other council member discussions on it? If not, this is a motion, this is an action item from council. And I'll open it up to motions.
I'll make the motion. What does it say here?
Are you looking for general direction?
Just direction or motion? I'll make a motion to.
Yeah, either general direction to go back and discuss with Griffin about potentially a revised scope along the lines of what Laura and Mr. Jackson were saying about having it kind of more comprehensive and possibly doing some sort of a bundle deal of the architecture component, or a motion to move forward with it as is.
My only concern I'd have before we go to motion for that is if we do the concept to keys thing, it would be nice to have one vendor, but I do think that eliminates all of our local builders, which I don't love. I love when we build things in Kingsburg with our Kingsburg people, and that would eliminate that.
So then it would be a motion to approve the agreement, to direct staff to proceed with the agreement and approve the agreement for that, and then staff and our office will work on the agreement and bring it back to you for approval.
Could you guys hear that okay? Okay, so that would be the motion if someone wanted to make that.
I'll make the motion. Staff gets into an agreement with Griffin Structures.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can you do a roll call vote on this one? Just to make sure.
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer?
Yes.
Councilmember North?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Purcell Jr.?
Yes. Okay, that motion carries. Next, we will move to future agenda items. We currently have none listed on that, so we will move to the Assistant City Manager's report. Madam City Manager, do you have anything?
I was going to bring up the Senior Center Pancake Breakfast for Veterans Day next Monday. It was discussed. Lions Club and Casaros will be hosting that. Veterans will eat free, and it'll be $5 for their company and others who would like to join. I also wanted to add to the chamber discussion earlier that the city is happy to help out in any way that we can. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Okay, so we will come back to council reports and council committee reports, starting with Councilmember Silva.
Not much to report. The Economic Development Committee has not met, nor has the South Kings GSA. And the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control has not met as well. So unfortunately, not much going on.
Mayor Pro Tem Palmer.
Public Safety Committee, we meet this month on the 12th. Planning Commission, we're scheduled to meet this month on the 14th. And at SKF, we met at the end of last month on the 24th. And we passed an amendment to the consulting services of MKN and Associates for 1 year. We passed an amendment for fiscal year 2024-25 for CCTV inspection and review with MKN. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember North?
The bid met yesterday. We talked about the holiday, the trees getting decorated, and the successful holiday kickoff that was on Saturday. They had over 200 riders on the trolley, so pretty successful. Everybody said that they had a good turnout in their businesses, those members that were present. Chamber, we don't have a date on when we'll meet next. It was supposed to be next week, so TBD on that. Christina already talked about the Veterans Breakfast that is coming up. Center Point, the Five Cities GPA, we met last week at the new Selma Police Department, and they talked about some Fresno State classes that they'll come do in communities. We've already had it in our community for 12 years through the school districts. And they also talked about the food trail, discussions about doing a kickoff probably like they did last year in the springtime, and they are going to look into using our trolley between cities. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith?
Yes, the Finance Committee will be meeting next on the 25th at 5 p.m. And Community Services Commission won't be meeting again until January.
Thank you. Just a couple things for me. We had a Swedish festival kickoff dinner at Mr. Safarjan's house, so thank you for hosting that. I was fortunate enough to get invited to the Kingsburg High School, Selma High School pep rally to give a speech where it was mostly appropriate things that were said by me about Selma. Just a great job. You know, they did it at the high school this year. It seems like they're going to be coming back to downtown next year for it, which I think everybody's real thankful for. At the Council of Governments and Rural Transit Authority, we did run into an issue specifically with the Golden State Corridor and finishing that project. It's a very expensive project, and there was, well, it was a long fight, if I'm just being completely honest. Our West Side communities were trying to pull the funding from that project, which would mean that the Golden State Corridor did not get completed. We were very, very fortunate. It ended up going our way, and I do want to say thank you to Mayor Robertson from Selma, who was really an advocate for us also, and City of Fresno and City of Clovis were very much on our side to complete the projects as were promised, because that funding was looking bad for us for a minute. They were looking to pull all the rest of that funding and take it out west on projects that we believe will never actually get finished. So we were very lucky to keep that funding, so we look forward to that project getting finished up. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report. Do we have anyone else? Okay, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and adjourn this and go into closed session. Thank you.